Hello and welcome to Racers Now. We're just about 3 weeks away from the richest race in the European racing calendar. The Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe takes place in Paris on the first weekend of October, which is the 6th of October. We've got the French expert Ande Humphrey that usually gets a mention on the Racers Now on whenever anything French comes up. Well, he's in Portugal, but he loves the French racing. We've got him here tuned in to look forward to the big one. Hump, how are you?
Yeah, good. Bom dia, as they say in Portugal. Welcome to Portugal, where it's really, really hot. Looking forward to it. We're well into what I call awards season now. This is like the awards season, so obviously the Irish champion, the British champion, the Arc, that's what it's all about. So a couple of weeks away, ready to get to Paris in a couple of weeks to see how we get on.
Well, I'll be painting the picture from a UK and Irish perspective. Hump's here to talk about everything French. Now, maybe it is because I am admittedly British and Irish-centric when it comes to the Arc, and I don't pay much attention to the French form, but I'm not too excited about the Arc as it stands now. We're just under 3 weeks away, probably because the home team have the first two in the market, and I don't know a hell of a lot about them. They've won 3 of the last 5, the French, I'll admit that, so that's maybe why my excitement is waning at this point. But even from a UK and Irish perspective, as we stand, we're not sending over many superstars to try and win Europe's richest race. Epsom Derby, Epsom Oaks, Juddmonte International, Irish Champion, King George, Irish Oak. None of the winners of those races are set to run in the Arc. Now, that's not the Arc's fault. It's not anyone's fault. They've got different targets between them. City of Troy, of course, is going to the Breeders' Cup, etc., etc. So it is the French horses that do top the market, and they ran against each other on Sunday in the Prix Niel just gone, and that will be our starting point, I think, Hump.
Bit of a muddling race, really. They took the German second horse out, which, as we know, caused a bit of a fury around sort of where the pace was going to come from and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't the easiest race to read. I know you mentioned it there about sort of the French horses and the English horses not being there. This is only the 3rd time in the last 10 years that we've had a French horse top the market. Ace Impact won it obviously in 2023, and then you had Trev. She was top of the market in 2015. She finished 4th. So, and it's even rarer that you have 2 French horses at the top of the market, both of which took each other on in the nail, as we mentioned. Look, the Sozy was the winner. I sort of on my page I put him up. I just thought that after speaking to somebody who knows or was at the work for Luc de Vega, they said it was a great piece of work. My first question to them was he a bit fat? The answer was yes. So with that in mind, I think it was always going to be difficult for him to win. Now, Farb doesn't always have his horses sort of built up and ready to go into the trials, as we know, because the French treat the trials as trials. They can often be a bit off the pace and things like that. But he performed really, really well for me. And I think that, he was a bit leery early on. He had his head cocked to the side. I think he was focusing on the camera a little bit more as the car drove past. But the most important thing to me was he's a real challenger tank of a horse. He's a big old, what of a horse. So I wanted to see how he took the downhills around the bend and that kind of thing. And he took it really well. He was balanced enough, which is what you like to see. But the one thing that I found interesting was Max Guillaume was after him very early on into the straight, almost the whole of the straight, which was about 550, 600 meters. So nearly 3 furlongs effectively. And he was having to rev him up the whole way. Look, it's, he is a big horse. He'll probably appreciate the ground. All of his wins. He's had 3 wins at Longchamp this year, all of which have been on ground sort of 3-5, which is soft, moving towards even well, not heavy, but softer, I guess. Perfect 3 for 3. From the race, I think he's come out obviously as the correct favourite. I think Luc de Vega has a bit to work on. If we want to focus on Luc de Vega, only 4 runs in his career so far, which is not a lot. Ace Impact had run 6 times before he ran. Well, 5 times before he ran in the Arc, and we thought that was a bit of a short run into it. So he ran well in the Jockey Club, as we know. The jockey delivered him late there, Ronan Thomas, which was good. I think, as I mentioned, the pace wasn't there. He didn't want to make the running early on. We know he didn't want to make the running. We know where he came back off a 100-day break as well. So everything that could go against him really sort of did on the day. I don't think it was the perfect performance that we were looking at. The jockey also, when it came to the Niel, when he came to sort of the 1.5 furlong, 2 furlong post, he sort of had a look to. If you watch it, you'd be able to see on the left-hand side, he had a look to his left to see where Delius was, and once Delius had gone past him, effectively pulled him up, but he went very easy on him after that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on now. 2,400, 12 furlongs. He's never run over that before, apart from obviously, we're trying to think of what's going to happen. If you look at it, I'm no pedigree expert, but his dam went over, over 12 furlongs, and she was out of Shamardal. So all roads point that way. But for me, I'm not totally convinced by him. If I'm being truthful and honest with you, I don't know. The jockey would be a worry for me as well. I know he's obviously he knows the horse quite well, but he's very, he's not who you wouldn't be in your top 5 picks that you want on an arc second favourite, would he really?
I'd never heard of Ronan Thomas until this year. But yeah, I mean, look, De Vega was good in the French Derby. It is an impressive French Derby winner. Sosi was third behind him that day. Sosi's then gone on to win the Grand Prix de Paris, beating no less than Illinois. Then he's turned up here as well. But if you do watch the Niel, that I watched it this morning, that looked De Vega just looked, like you say, unfit. Or not fit enough, no way near fit enough to be winning a race, but they do treat them very, very much as trials. It was ran like a trial, it looked like a trial. Jockey pretty much gave up in the final half furlong, as you said. And Connections after, they was almost happy with that in terms of, he's going to be getting better fitness and it was a trial, etc., etc. So you wouldn't put it past him running well and winning an arc, but it just does have a very open look to it this season. And there's, away from the top 2 in the market, I think there's, like I said earlier, there's no real superstars standing off the page that are coming over from England and France. So it does leave an open look to it. Was there anything else from the trials that caught your eye there, Hump?
There was, I know obviously you're probably going to speak about Opera Singer potentially a little bit later on, but Sparkling Plenty was one I thought going into the Vermeer, I was thinking she was going to be. I was hoping for a good performance from her, and I got more or less the complete opposite of what I wanted from it. Really, I won't lie to you. I openly said on X that I would back her at 40s. I think there was an overreaction to it on that. Now, obviously, she does need supplementing into the race, but I mean, they supplemented her into the Vermeer, so I don't understand why they wouldn't supplement her into the arc as well. Obviously, with Al Hakim retiring yesterday as well, that leaves them with just Luc de Vega, which they bought into earlier on this year as well. So I think she was the one I was looking interested in. She was the one I was interested in. The backstory to her this season: she's run 8 times this season, which is obviously quite a lot, even for a tough filly. She's gone from 1,600 to 2,400. That's 8 furlongs to 12 furlongs. She was electric in the Diane. We know she won that pretty easily. She placed in the Pouliche as well, the French Guineas, so not a bad year at all. The form of those 2 races haven't exactly been sparkling. Let's put it that way. If you want to use a pun there, Tamfana was potentially the best. Well, is the best one. She's beaten that. Obviously, Tamfana won was it Sandown a couple of weeks ago? I think it was.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Back down to a mile.
Yeah, so the form hasn't exactly been boosted over the arc distance. But yeah, as I mentioned, the Vermeer was as close to a meaningless preparation for her as possible. I think it was just to get her out on the track again, potentially. She was anchored, must have been 20, 25 lengths out the back pretty much from the start. If you rewind and watch the video, which I've done about 4 or 5 times just to make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me, she was in the back straight. Obviously, the Vertimer pacemaker, whose name escapes me, was sent off in front. Blue Stocking was close behind, and she's been anchored 20 lengths out the back. I think it was a bit of a joke, really, to be honest. I really couldn't believe what I was seeing. Maybe the jockey Tony Piccioni was working toward us. I'm not 100% sure, but it's one of them things where you'd want to see a better performance. Now, she came home really strongly at the end, which obviously was important. We wanted to see that. As I said, she's got an electric turn of foot when she gets going. I think that's potentially. She doesn't scream arc winner to you with a couple of blocks on a copybook and whatever, but a few things keep her in it. Like I said, she's really quick. She's got great finishing speed. She will close hard. The weight, obviously, as we know, as you've mentioned on more than one occasion, 3-year-old fillies getting all the weight really do help. So we know that'll work. That'll work in her favour. And compared to Sosie, she looks like a bit of a rocket. But the one thing that I've been burnt doing this before, and I think she could be potentially another Sea of Class. As we know, Sea of Class was about 2 heads away from winning an arc way back when. Obviously, she's not with us anymore, which is a bit of a shame. but she has that kind of profile where if she does come late, she's going to have to go through the whole field. She might have to maneuver her way through, and I just don't know. I don't know if you can win an arc from that kind of point of view. I know you'd want to be you'd want to be close to the van out the front really in order to get a good run.
Yeah.
So we'll see how she gets on. But I do think the book's overreacted going 40s, and I think that made her a bet really, especially compared to some of the ones that are a little bit higher up in the market.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. Hump, I didn't even, in the list I was writing for along the bottom, 40 to 1 bar. So Sparkling Plenty didn't actually make my list. But just on that Vermeer itself, Blue Stocking, she's had a great season. That's her second Group 1 win. I thought this was a good renewal from a quality point of view, and the amount of runners. 12 runners in the Vermeer is quite a lot, more than we're used to. Blue Stocking, they say, is going to be supplemented for the Arc. I think it's around 100 grand, is it not nowadays? 120,000 euros, something like that.
120 grand, yeah.
Yep, so that's going to cost Judmont a few quid there. But I think she's worth a go. They had horses like, Emily Upjohn, Group 1 winner of yesteryear. Stay Alert's been a Group 1 second last year. Opera Singer won a Group 1 on her most recent start there at Goodwood and was trying this distance for the first time over a mile and a half. I would be a little bit disappointed with Opera Singer, to be fair. I just thought that it was a first try over this trip, and I don't think she got the trip, to be honest with you. I know they've been talking about it being an Arc course ever since she won an Arc day last year. But she's had a late start to a season, Opera Singer, which means they haven't been able to step up in trip until last Sunday in the trial. So I just think it might come a bit too early for her, and I don't think she's going to stay. But I think she probably will run Opera Singer. But typically for the Aidan O'Brien boys, she's got entries in absolutely everything you can think of. Everything from the Sun Chariot to the Arc, and 3 entries on British Champions Day. Where Opera Singer ends up next, I do not know. But yeah, she's a possible runner in the Arc. Emily Upjohn, I've been quite vocal on her this year, but that was a good run for her. Good win for Blue Stocking. But let's not remember, when Blue Stocking last faced the boys, she was 10 lengths away from City of Troy and Calandagang in the Judmont. So, it's all well and good winning Group 1s against your own sex. That's great. But she's going to need to definitely step it up again to get close in winning an Arc. But as Hump said, the record of the fillies in the race is pretty decent. But yeah, she was 8 and a quarter.
The one thing on that is obviously maybe she just needs the trip. She might just need the trip, and if you look more towards the trip that we know she won at the Curragh, but then that's a front running track, as we know, it's that kind of thing. But if you look to ask her when she was behind Goliath, I mean, what price would Goliath be? I think if he was to run in the race, I think he'd probably be up there, if not favourite, to win this race. And she was only 2 1/4 lengths behind him that day. And I think that's probably, if you're going to pick a form line for her, that would probably be the one. Obviously outside of winning the Vermeer, but she beat Aventure in the Vermeer, and Aventure is 16 to 1, which I think is a bit of a miserable price, to be honest. I'm not fully sold on Aventure. I think she's much of a muchness, really. Behind Sparkling Plenty in the in the Diane, went to Deauville, won at Deauville, come second here. So she probably end a place in the race, but she's not somebody at 16s to 1 that you think, I really want to be back in Aventure to win the Arc. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I'm just going back to Blue Stocking, when she finished 4th in the Judmont in August, Barry Mahan, who's the Judmont gaffer, said this was to find out if she was up to an Arc, but we found out she's a very good filly who's better sticking against her own sex. Well, since she's won the Vermeer against her own sex, that strategy appears to have changed, and they're going to chuck her in. I think she's an interesting runner. I just don't think she's going to be quite good enough to win. Although, like I've said a couple of times, there is no superstar at the top of the market. I was going to mention the Foy Hump, but it might be a very short mention because you can basically forget about it as a trial. The winner is a 7-year-old gelding, so clearly won't be running in the Arc. And the second and third are respectively, they're both 50 to 1 for the Arc itself. So the Foy, just put a line through it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Everseen will have its place on. Will have its place on Arc weekend. I think this is used very much as a trial for a different race on Arc weekend. So I know he's 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if he continued to win in France, especially on the Arc weekend. So just keep an eye out for him in whatever he turns up in that way.
Yeah, so that leads us on really to talk about the Irish Champion Stakes, which has got a good record of throwing up at least a not contender, if not winners in the past. Economics was your winner there, a bit of a coming out party for him, but the plan apparently is very much to go for the British champion equivalent of the Irish that he won last weekend. You can't really fault them for that. That was his first China Group 1, 10 furlongs, etc. Although, when he won the Group 2 in France on his comeback a few weeks ago, I thought he looked all over an art course when he can show his lot of big striding gallop and really picked up the ground against JRB that day. But look, they're sticking to the British Champions Day plan, so we'll skip over him. In that race, third was Shin Emperor. I mean, I don't know a lot about the Japanese form, but that was clearly a very good run to only be a length behind Economics and just behind Augusta Rodin and finish in front of good horses like Luxembourg, etc. He's definitely a runner in the arc for the Japan team, and they've been chasing a runner for years and years and years, as we know the stories there. But I think the main one to take out of the Irish champion was Los Angeles, and it's no surprise, really. We was told he was running it as an ARC trial before, and that's how it turned out. Aidan O'Brien said weeks and weeks ago, we're going to drop him down in trip for the Irish champion, finish third or fourth, then go to the ARC. I think that's definitely what they're going to do. And I think he's got a chance on. He might actually be better than I thought he was, Los Angeles, because I thought he was a bit of a slow plodder that should have gone to the St. Ledger. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think going back to initially to Shin Emperor, obviously I think he found more traffic than the M6 on a Friday night, didn't he? There, unfortunately. So going to Paris, it's going to be a very different story, as we know that it's basically the width of a football field out in the home straight, in Paris. So if they pull him a bit wider, he might get a bit there. I put the same out on X. I said, don't worry about getting. If you need to go down the outside, we've seen that happen in the past. Obviously, with Ace Impact last year, he came really wide on the track. That time as well. So it was impressive to see, but they come out and they said he was only 70% fit for that as well, which is, I guess if you want to use it that way, it's kind of a bit scary that, if there's still 30% more to come, then he's gonna have a real chance. He's not got Yutaka Take on, which is, a positive in my opinion. He's got obviously the regular jockey that he has on. I think his name is Sazai or something along those kind of lines. Yeah. So I do think that this, they have got a runner, which is good. They have got a chance, which is good. But how many times are we going to, go over this? It's like a fairy tale, isn't it? This, fairy tales don't often come true, unfortunately. So, Los Angeles wise, yeah, I think he's going to be. He seems the obvious pick for Ryan. I think Ryan will probably ride him in the race. I think they might have 2 or 3 in the race. Obviously, Opera Singer's going to be in there, so we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, the Irish champion was a really good race, the best race of the season, definitely without any doubt. And I do think Los Angeles is probably going to have a big role to play in this. He's got that thing about him where he doesn't look like he's going that fast, but he actually is. I think he's very deceptive in that kind of way. I think he'll stay very well as well, which is good, which is what you need. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that Economics isn't running. Obviously, they set the plan out and they're sticking to the plan. Look, I think he's a bit of a 10. I think he's perfect for 10 furlongs myself. But I'm more than happy to be proven wrong in an arc if he was to run it. But yeah, I think
he might run it next year.
Yeah, which is which isn't a bad thing if you think that some of the ones that aren't going to be in here at the minute, and there's no 2-year-olds that scream that they're going to be they're going to be great. I know it's very early, before the time for the 2-year-olds to look into 3-year-olds and what they're going to be down that kind of line. But I think that if they want to run him next year, then why not? Yeah, a lot of these probably won't be around, so we might have a good turn there. But overall, Los Angeles, I do agree with you. I think he is there's positives for him in the Irish champion, and I think going forward into the arc, he's going to have a chance here.
2 to mention to finish on. Fantastic Moon, who won that Baden Group 1 that's provided the winner of this a couple of times with Alpinista and Taquato Tasso, the Grossier Prix Van Baden Group 1. Well, it won that. This Fantastic Moon won that a couple of weeks ago, beating Dubai Honor. Ran in the ARC last year, finished 11th, 40-1. Would there be any comment on that one, Hump?
No, I don't think it's going to have. I don't think it's going to have enough. To be honest, it didn't have enough last year. Obviously, Ace Impact, not a lot did against Ace Impact last year, but I just don't think that. I think there's ones I'd rather have at the top of the market than Fantastic Moon. Yeah.
And one I'm going to mention. Whether it runs or not, I don't know. Ancient Wisdom, right, for Charlie Appleby. This horse has been kept so quiet this year because he must have soft ground. He's been entered in all the top races, and he was taken out of the Ledger last week. That wasn't on particularly rattling quick ground. So I just think they just think that he's really good. This Ancient Wisdom. We've only seen him 3 times earlier this year. We've not seen him for since July, where he won a under par renewal of the Bahrain Stakes. But yeah, I was just a mention of Ancient Wisdom. If he was to turn up and be a ridiculous price on the day, he's currently 50-1. If he was to turn up, I would just chuck a couple of quid on him just for being purely unexposed. Won the Racing Post Trophy last year, etc., etc. But it's just a big if he turns up.
Yeah, the layoff would be the worry for me. Was it July the last time he ran? It's it's an extraordinarily long time to sort of keep a horse out of training. Well, not out of training as such, but not where he's not a runner within any time close towards December or along those kind of lines. So I'd just be very sort of worried about his fitness. And a lot of people have mentioned about Godolphin and how their sort of ideas have shifted and their sort of interests have shifted. To put this into perspective, Charlie Appleby has had 6 horses run in France this year, which is an incredibly low number. 6 horses, 1 winner, and that's over the last couple of years. He's had upwards nearly 10 horses, 12 horses running every single year in France, and it's just 2022 he had 12 horses running this year. He's had 6. Let's put it that way, and we're coming into the real business end of the season, so it's definitely a shift. It wouldn't be one for me unless he is. They'd have to have him right, fit, and ready to go, which is
absolutely
difficult after such a long time out.
Yeah. Just the last one to mention, Al Reefer. He's quite near the top of the market, 12-1. I don't think he stays a mile and a half well enough, personally. For Joseph O'Brien. Good horse. I liked him. He had a disjoint of 2023. He's been productive in 2024. But yeah, he won impressive in Germany last time. I'm not sure that race was up to much, and I don't think he stays well enough to be threatening in the Ox. So your selection would be Sparkling Plenty at this stage then, Hump?
Yeah, it would be. Obviously, we'll need confirmation that she's definitely going to be supplemented in. We won't, we'll try and find, as soon as I find that out, I'll try and put it on the X and see if everybody knows that. But yeah, I think if the price is still there, obviously, I can't really see being where I am. Portugal denies you access to any kind of betting website, which isn't helpful. But she was 40s. A friend messaged me saying that. So, but yeah, hopefully she gets supplemented. I think she will. Yep. I think she will. Look, it's not going to be, it's not going to be a big bet, but I think, like as I mentioned, the weight, the speed, coming off the pace, maybe she, hopefully she gets a good clear run, and if she does get a good clear run, then I think she'll give herself a chance to win. Let's put it that way.
Good stuff. Right, well, we will probably return in the first week in October to, again, touch back on the Arc, but all the host of other Group 1s that weekend. And Hump, I'm pretty much certain you're going to be in Paris as usual that week.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I wasn't able to be there last year because a friend got married on that weekend, which was a bit of a bummer. But we'll be there this week. We'll be there Friday, flying in Friday, coming out Monday even. So yeah, we'll definitely be there with bells and whistles on, ready to go.
Very good. Right, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back soon here on Racers Now. Looking forward to all the big Group 1s as the flat season comes to a conclusion. Thank you.